After a decade of uncertainty and relentless searching, a new phase of hope emerges in the quest to uncover the fate of Flight MH370. The mystery of Flight MH370 might finally be cracked. Years have passed, but the pain and curiosity never faded. Now, shockingly, a new clue has emerged. Hearts race as we edge closer to the truth of this unforgettable saga. Join us as we dive into the latest breakthrough, unraveling the story that has gripped the world. Our story kicks off in the early hours of a chilly March morning in 2014. To be more specific, it all started at 12:41 in the morning on the 8th of March. A big airplane, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, was preparing to take off. It was all set to fly from Kuala Lumpur International Airport to Beijing Capital International Airport in China. This wasn't supposed to be a long trip, just over 6 hours from start to finish. The airplane, a Boeing 777-200ER, wasn't new, having been in service for 12 years with the registration number 9MMRO. Flying the plane was Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a skilled and experienced 53-year-old pilot with 18,365 hours in the air. He knew the route well and often shared his passion for flying on social media. In the cockpit with him was First Officer Fark Abdul Hamid, a 27-year-old with 2,763 hours of flying experience. This flight was a training opportunity for him, which tragically became his last. There were also 10 friendly flight attendants on board, ensuring the safety and comfort of 227 passengers, including 5 children. While most of the passengers were from China, the airplane was like a small international community, carrying people from Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, India, France, the USA, and other countries. As the plane rolled down runway 32R and ascended into the dark night sky, it vanished northeast over the vast South China Sea. Reaching a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, the crew checked in with Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control to confirm all was well. Shortly after, as the airplane neared Vietnamese airspace, Malaysian Air Traffic sent a standard farewell message. Captain Zahari's response, "Good night, Malaysian 370, was the customary way pilots transition between air traffic regions. But then, the unknown unfolded. As the airplane entered Vietnamese skies, it disappeared from radar. Its transponder, an essential device transmitting the plane's vital information, abruptly stopped working, rendering the aircraft a ghost in the sky. Ground trackers lost all signals, leaving the plane's whereabouts and status a mystery. Eerily, no emergency signals were sent from the plane, and weather conditions were not reported as problematic. Around 1:30 a.m., Malaysian military and civilian radars detected the plane again, but it was no longer following its intended path. Instead, it turned back, flying southwest across the Malay Peninsula, then northwest over the Strait of Malacca. The reasons behind these strange maneuvers remain unknown. Was it mechanical failure, deliberate action, or something else? Around this chaotic time, a pilot from another airplane tried to contact Flight 370 through an emergency channel, relaying a message from Vietnamese controllers. Although contact was made, the communication was garbled, consisting only of muffled sounds and static. At 2:22 a.m., Malaysian military radar lost the plane's signal over the Andaman Sea, a foreboding indication that something dire might have occurred. By 2:40 a.m., air traffic controllers confirmed the unthinkable: Flight 370 had vanished. Malaysia Airlines, gripped with worry, launched an urgent search effort, reaching out to anyone who could help. By 5:30 a.m., as the sun rose, the search intensified, focusing on the South China Sea and Gulf of Thailand, the last known locations of the plane. As news of the disappearance spread, eyewitness accounts began to emerge. Fishermen, oil rig workers, and residents of remote areas like the Kuta Huadu Atoll and the Maldives reported sightings of a plane resembling Flight 370. One fisherman near Kotabaru described seeing an aircraft flying unusually low, an unsettling and alarming detail. Meanwhile, an oil rig worker 1,863 miles southeast of Wang reported seeing flames in the sky early in the morning, a haunting image that spurred Vietnamese authorities to investigate. The disappearance of Flight MH370 remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries, a puzzle that grows with each new detail and sighting. As investigators piece together the fragments of this tragic story, the world continues to watch, waiting for answers that might finally bring closure. They launched a search and rescue mission, hoping to uncover the source of the frightening sight in the sky. Meanwhile, Indonesian fishermen added to the growing mystery with their own alarming tale. They claimed to have witnessed an airplane plummeting near the Malacca Straits, further deepening the confusion surrounding Flight 370. Then, 3 months after the initial disappearance, a British woman sailing across the vast Indian Ocean came forward with a startling account. She reported seeing a plane engulfed in flames, adding to the eerie chorus of mysterious sightings. These varying accounts made the vanishing of Flight 370 even more perplexing. Though each story differed, they collectively painted a picture of a bizarre and tragic event, fueling a relentless quest to uncover the truth behind one of aviation history's most puzzling incidents. Initially, search efforts focused on the South China Sea, the logical starting point since it was the plane's intended route. However, new information suddenly emerged, revealing that Flight 370 had strayed far off course and was actually heading west. This revelation shifted the entire investigation, expanding the search to include the Strait of Malacca and the enigmatic depths of the Andaman Sea. As the mystery deepened, critical clues surfaced from signals the missing plane had sent to a satellite. These cryptic whispers from the sky indicated the plane remained airborne for about 6 hours after disappearing from radar, a shocking revelation that left investigators baffled. March 15 marked a pivotal moment in the saga. A week after the disappearance, Inmarsat, a satellite company, provided crucial data. Although unable to pinpoint the plane's exact location, they suggested it might have ended in one of two regions: the remote waters of the southern Indian Ocean southwest of Australia or a northern arc stretching from Vietnam to Turkmenistan. Search coordinators halted operations in previously targeted areas like the South China Sea and Gulf of Thailand, redirecting efforts to these new paths. However, the northern route was soon dismissed, as nations along this path asserted their radar systems would have detected any unauthorized aircraft. This left investigators focusing on the vast southern arc, extending into the desolate expanse of the Indian Ocean. On March 24, 2014, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak delivered heartbreaking news. After analyzing the final signals with help from Inmarsat and the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch, it was concluded that the plane's last known position was over the southern Indian Ocean. The area was so remote and barren that a safe landing seemed impossible, leading to the devastating belief that the plane and its 239 passengers had perished. This marked a tragic moment in aviation history. For 131 days, Flight 370 was the deadliest incident involving a Boeing 777 until another Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777, Flight 17, was shot down on July 17, 2014, claiming 298 lives. The search for Flight 370 became the most expensive in aviation history, fraught with challenges due to the suspected crash location's remoteness. A glimmer of hope emerged on April 6, 2014, when an Australian ship detected potential black box signals approximately 1,240 miles northwest of Perth. This fleeting promise of answers, however, underscored the immense difficulty of the mission and the enduring mystery of Flight 370. What made this clue seem real was that the data from Inmarsat, a satellite company, matched where these noises were coming from. But there was a big worry hanging over everyone's heads: if these beeps really were from Flight 370, the black box that recorded the plane's last moments might soon run out of battery and stop working. To check out this clue, they sent down a robotic submarine to comb through the ocean floor. This job was huge. The beeps had been heard over a big, wide area, and despite the submarine looking really hard and for a long time, it couldn't find any parts of the missing plane. Later on, some people started to think that maybe those beeps were a mistake, perhaps noises made by the submarine's own equipment messing up. But the people looking for the plane didn't give up. They kept searching with determination until June 2015, but sadly, they didn't find any bits of the plane. Then, on July 29, 2015, something small but important happened. Part of the plane's right wing, a piece called the flaperon, washed up on a beach on Reunion Island. This island is really far from where they had been looking, about 2,300 miles west of the search area in the Indian Ocean. Over the next 18 months, pieces of what might be the plane started showing up on beaches in different places like Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, Madagascar, and Mauritius. Out of these, 26 bits and pieces were thought to possibly come from the lost plane. 3 of these were definitely from Flight 370, and 17 were almost certainly parts of it. 2 bits even came from inside the plane, which made people think that the plane must have broken into pieces at some point. But what nobody knew for sure was whether the plane broke up while it was still in the sky or when it hit the water. Looking closer at parts of the wing that were found, one on Reunion Island and another in Tanzania, gave some clues about what happened right before the plane was lost. It seemed like the plane hadn't been gently brought down to land on the water by someone controlling it. Instead, some experts started to think that Flight 370 might have hit the water really hard, going straight down in a steep dive. In January 2017, the countries of Malaysia, Australia, and China said that they had to stop their official search for Flight 370. But then, a company from the United States called Ocean Infinity got permission from Malaysia to keep looking. This new part of the search went on until May 2018, when the Malaysian Transport Ministry said that this extra effort to find the plane had also come to an end. Then, in the middle of 2018, specifically in July, Malaysian officials put out a report about the mysterious loss of Flight 370. This report was a big deal because it pretty much said it was unlikely that the plane went missing because something inside it broke by accident. Instead, the report hinted that maybe someone had taken over the plane on purpose, changing its course by hand. This idea made the already puzzling story of Flight 370 even more complicated and deepened the mystery around what really happened. Even with many strong hints and hard work, the group of experts looking into this confusing case still couldn't figure out exactly why Flight 370 disappeared without leaving any hints. After the airplane went missing, lots of people started guessing what might have happened. One scary guess was that maybe someone had taken over the airplane by force, known as hijacking. This wasn't just a wild guess. There were some real facts that made people think it could be true. One really worrying thing they found out was that 2 people got on Flight 370 using passports that weren't theirs. These passports had been stolen from someone else. This fact made everyone very worried. The passports, one belonging to someone from Austria and the other to someone from Italy, had been reported missing in Thailand during the last 2 years. Interpol, which is like a worldwide club that helps police from different countries work together, said yes, these passports were in their big list of passports that people had reported missing or stolen. It was a big problem that no one had checked these passports against the lost and stolen list when the theft was reported. This issue got more attention when Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, the person in charge of keeping Malaysia safe inside, pointed out a big mistake. He was upset because the people working at Malaysia's borders let the 2 passengers with the stolen passports get on the plane. These 2 people had bought tickets that were only for one way and got them through China Southern Airlines. It came out later that a man from Iran, calling from a place in Bangkok, had asked for the cheapest tickets to Europe he could get and paid for them all in cash. Then, they found out more. The 2 passengers were actually young guys from Iran, one 19 years old and the other 29. They had come into Malaysia legally, using their real Iranian passports, right at the end of February. People started guessing that maybe these guys were just trying to go to another country to live safely, known as seeking asylum. The boss of Interpol even said they were starting to think this wasn't about terrorism. After Flight 370 mysteriously went away, American and Malaysian teams started a very detailed check on everyone who was on that flight. They looked into every bit of the passengers' pasts. At the same time, the Chinese government looked really closely at the passengers from China. After all this looking, they all agreed on one thing: there wasn't any sign that any of these people were involved in doing something violent or connected to terrorism. Step into the whirlwind of guesses and stories made after Flight MH370 went missing, each adding twists to the already confusing mystery. In this particular story, there was one man who caught everyone's eye for a short while. This man worked as a flight engineer for a company in Switzerland that rented out jets. Because he knew a lot about planes, the people trying to figure out what happened thought he might have taken the plane, due to his deep understanding of how to fly and control them. While everyone was trying to guess what might have happened, a very exciting but scary idea came up. Some people thought that maybe spies from Russia took over the plane. They believed these spies made the plane crash on purpose in a very empty part of Kazakhstan. The reason? They thought maybe Russia wanted to make people look somewhere else and not at what they were doing in Crimea, a place where there was a lot of trouble. This idea sounded like something from a spy movie, with secret agents and hidden plans, but there was no real proof that it was true. As the story of Flight 370, the missing plane, unfolded, one small piece of information caught everyone's attention and started a lot of talks. There were reports that said the cell phones of the people who were on the plane were still making sounds, like they do when you call them, even though no one knew where the plane was. The families of those missing people were really upset and kept trying to call their loved ones. When they heard the phones ringing, they were filled with questions and started to hope maybe the plane was not lost in the ocean. This tiny glimmer of hope, however, was soon explained by people who know a lot about how cell phones and calls work. They said that just because a phone rings, it doesn't mean the call is actually reaching the other person. What happens is that the phone company system looks for the phone and tries to make a connection. If it can't make the call go through after trying a few times, it just stops trying. So, the ringing the families heard was probably just the phone company trying to find the phones, not the phones themselves. Even though this explanation made sense from a technical point of view, it didn't help the families feel any better. They were still very sad and confused about what happened to the people they loved who were on that missing plane. Here's what we know: the plane was flying in the night sky above a place called the Gulf of Thailand. Suddenly, without warning, it turned around and flew back over land, passing both big cities and small villages. After this sudden turn, there was no more news from the plane. In a time like ours, where everyone is always talking and sharing things online, this complete silence is really strange and worrying. No one on that plane, whether they were going on holiday or traveling for work, sent a text, made a phone call, shared a picture, or said anything online after the plane changed its direction. This silence has made the mystery even bigger and has made many people very concerned about what might have happened during that flight. Nowadays, with everyone usually being online, it's odd that no one from Flight 370 made any contact. This silence has caused a lot of debate and guessing among experts. Many passengers were from Malaysia and China, countries where almost everyone uses a phone, especially those traveling abroad. So, what stopped them from communicating? Were they unable to send messages, or were they somehow prevented from doing so? It's possible that the plane was too high in the sky for their phones to work. Or maybe they tried to send messages but failed. These possibilities make the situation even more puzzling. As investigations continue, the Flight 370 mystery grows deeper and more intriguing. Everyone is looking for any clue that might explain this baffling event. After changing its course, the military radar detected something unusual about Flight 370. It climbed to an extraordinary height of 45,000 feet, far above its normal cruising level, then dropped to around 23,000 feet, and later ascended again to 29,500 feet. This erratic movement could explain why passengers' phones were out of service. Regardless of whether passengers attempted to use their phones mid-flight or had them on from the start, the extreme altitudes likely prevented any connection to ground-based cell towers. In the quest to uncover why Flight 370 veered off its planned path, U.S. investigators considered the possibility of deliberate action from within the cockpit, suggesting the plane might have been intentionally flown towards the Indian Ocean. To dig deeper, the Malaysian authorities examined the homes of the pilots and scrutinized the financial records, including bank and credit card activity, of all 12 crew members, along with other personal details. Dive into the backgrounds and possible reasons of those on board, looking into the crew's lives and the strange events of the flight's last hours. A month after the plane vanished, Malaysia's top police officer mentioned they had interviewed over 170 people, including pilots and crew members' families. The captain, Zahari Ahmed Shah, was the prime focus, particularly if the plane's loss was due to human actions. There were unsettling rumors about Captain Zahari. Some speculated he might have planned a tragic ending by deliberately crashing the plane, possibly after locking the co-pilot out, severing all outside communications, compromising the cabin's air quality, and allowing the plane to continue flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. Investigations into Zahari's personal life revealed he was a married father of 3 living in a peaceful neighborhood with 2 properties. He owned a flight simulator, which he frequently used at home. A suspicious detail emerged: the simulator contained a flight route mirroring Flight 370's, heading towards the Southern Ocean, ending at a remote island. This deleted route was recovered by specialists, who noted its resemblance to Flight 370's actual trajectory, fueling speculation about Zahari's possible motives linked to personal distress. Zahari was experiencing personal difficulties, including a separation from his wife, which is hard for anyone. He was also distressed about a relative, Anwar Ibrahim, receiving a 5-year jail term shortly before Zahari's flight, possibly adding to his emotional strain. However, Zahari's wife refuted these issues, supported by friends and family who believed he was too dedicated to his family and career to harm others. As the inquiry proceeded, Kuala Lumpur police collaborated with the FBI to analyze Zahari's flight simulator thoroughly. Despite the scrutiny, no evidence was found implicating Zahari in planning anything sinister with Flight 370, shifting the investigation towards the co-pilot, Farik Abdul Hamid. A startling discovery was made. Farik attempted a phone call while the plane flew low over Malaysia's coastline, but the call abruptly ended. The connection was briefly made with a Penang State Tower, thought to be cut short as the plane moved out of range too quickly for a handoff to another tower. This mysterious phone call's details remained undisclosed, sparking widespread speculation. Who was Farik trying to reach during such a critical moment? Officials and investigators stayed silent, keeping the call's recipient and intent confidential, leading to rampant speculation and rumors. Amidst this secrecy, some suggested that Farik, possibly burdened by personal issues, might have made a drastic decision, perhaps commandeering the aircraft, shutting down its systems, and isolating himself in the cockpit. If the rumors were true, it would have marked an incredibly heartbreaking turn of events. Both the crew working on the flight and the passengers would have found themselves in a dire situation, unable to access the cockpit in what would have been a critical moment. This speculation added layers of darkness and sorrow to the already complex and somber narrative of Flight 370, deepening the mystery and enhancing the sense of tragedy surrounding the incident. Speculations arose about Farrick's personal life, particularly concerning potential struggles in his romantic relationships. There was talk that perhaps he was so overwhelmed by personal troubles that he viewed this drastic and horrifying act as an escape from his own suffering. This theory painted a portrait of a man driven to the brink, feeling utterly without alternative options, a narrative that is as heart-wrenching as it is dramatic. Yet, it's crucial to examine elements of his life that contradict this bleak picture. Farrick was not just any pilot, he was a man deeply in love, on the cusp of embarking on a significant new chapter in his life. He was engaged to be married to Captain Nadira Ramlay, a 26-year-old pilot from a different airline, and by all accounts, their relationship was a source of great joy and fulfillment for him. This upcoming marriage indicates a man looking forward to the future with optimism, not someone seeking an end. Moreover, Farrick's career was a significant part of his life, one that he took great pride and pleasure in. Flying was not merely a job for him, it was a passion, a calling that he was wholeheartedly devoted to. His enthusiasm for flying was evident, and his commitment to his profession was well known among his peers. This level of dedication highlights how much he valued his role as a pilot. Considering these aspects of his life, it becomes challenging to reconcile the notion that he would deliberately choose a path leading to such a tragic and final act. His imminent wedding and his fervent passion for his career provide strong reasons to live, casting doubt on the likelihood that personal distress could have driven him to commandeer the flight for a catastrophic purpose. The stark contrast between the theories of his despair and the tangible evidence of a man excited about marital life and dedicated to his profession complicates the mystery even further. It urges us to avoid jumping to simplistic conclusions and to consider all facets of his life. Adopting this comprehensive approach to investigation respects the intricacy and nuances of human emotions and behaviors in scenarios such as this. What do you think lies at the heart of the MH370 mystery? Could this new evidence change everything we thought we knew? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.